Wait, remember Cubix? Well, you should. It's robots for everyone. Literally, that's what the subtitle says. If you know me or the channel, I love robots. I've covered a lot of shows centered around robots, and what better to continue our robot journey than with Cubix. 4 years before 2049.
I want to ask you some questions.
Well, at least Ryan Gosling's there. But 2044 is pretty cool. Nothing to do with Blade Runner, I just wanted an excuse to mention that film, and Ryan Gosling. Anyway, Cubix is set in the year 2044 as we follow our main character Connor navigating life in Bubbletown, where the population is split partially between humans and robots. All of this done in that early CG look that swept the cartoon landscape in the late 90s and early 2000s. And for some reason, again today, but looking a bit better sometimes. But how could you look at these designs with these bright color palettes and not instantly feel a sense of happiness? So today, let's dive into Cubix, because for some reason, anytime I've brought this up over the past decade, most of my friends have no clue what I'm talking about. This one's personal.
Chill out, big guy.
Now a word from our sponsor.
Thanks so much to today's sponsor, Likewise, an app that I've already used to keep up with where I can find certain movies and TV shows streaming since there are so many different services now, as well as recommendations for what's in my personal taste. But Likewise is ready to take things to the next level for your convenience. Likewise just launched Likewise TV, a consolidated way to track and watch anything from all your services. How many times have you gone to one service to find the movie you wanted to watch has left that service and went to another? And when you go over there, it's already getting ready to leave for another. And before you know it, you have no idea where it went. Likewise TV curates a personalized streaming hub that not only makes it way simpler to find and watch what you're looking for, but it also helps directly take you to it. Everything is now in one central location to make sure you spend less time browsing and searching, so you can spend more time watching and enjoying. I can easily find where the shows and movies I love are and get to watching them right away. It has the most pinpoint accurate recommendations to my taste for me to discover something new or remind me of something I've been wanting to watch. You can even get notified of new seasons of shows, new release films, or if one of my favorite movies hits any of these streaming services. Likewise TV makes it easy to share recommendations with friends and family and vice versa from them to you, seeing what they're watching, reviewing, and recommending. In my watch list, I can save what I am interested in from all of the services, and it helps quickly see where they are with their labels clearly showing which service the program is currently on. So join the community, or just keep your personal taste in line with Likewise TV by clicking the link in the description. It's free, and it's helped me save a bunch of time when looking for something to watch and where to watch it. Thanks again to Likewise for sponsoring today's video.
You ready?
Ready!
So, Cubix, a little show with a lot of heart. In Bubbletown, Connor and his father Graham are adjusting to their new life there. With the town being split in population between people and robots, it definitely brings that futuristic feel while at the same time kind of feeling a bit homey or just something familiar. This town in particular is so full of robots thanks to Robix Corp, an international robotics company that has paved a path above the rest of the robotics companies thanks to their invention of the EPU, the Emotional Processing Unit, which makes it possible for robots to develop their own unique personalities. Let's check in on how in real life we're doing with that.
Being a robot is awesome. Did you know that?
Alright, let's just quit while we're ahead. Get it? Ahead? Whatever, you all hate my cringy joke interruptions anyway. We first meet up with Connor in the pilot episode as his spying neighbor Abby has her pet robot named Don Don checking in on Connor and his father's life. But Graham takes notice and ends up scaring it away as it crashes into Connor, leaving Don Don damaged and unresponsive. We will get into why Graham did so shortly, but Abby, who is now upset and worried for Don Don, heads to the Bodies Pit, which is basically a robot repair shop, with Connor to get him patched up. Here we meet Hella, the owner of Bodies, where Connor finds his fascination with robots completely sweeping over him, so much as to even want to work there. She puts him to the test to see if he can be up to the job by telling him to fix any broken down bot of his choice within the next 24 hours, in which he takes on the challenge by selecting an old but rather unique robot named Cubix, that even Hella couldn't fix within the years that robot has been there. Even though she has kept trying and not really getting anywhere with it, she ultimately kept the robot in her protection, as Cubix is the last memory of her father, Professor Nemo, a famed inventor responsible for the EPU that really put Robix Corp on the map. That is before his mysterious disappearance years ago when working with Solex, which can be a very volatile alien substance. Who doesn't love a good mystery? Connor starts his journey into fixing up Cubix, where at first things aren't going too well, having no luck in doing what Hella couldn't. But then a robot inventor by the name of Dr. K, no, that's the Twitch streamer. This is the real Dr. K. He attacks bodies, nearly toppling down the whole building. Connor, however, didn't want to leave Cubix behind, running back inside to save him, while at the same time now becoming trapped himself within the rubble. But thanks to divine robot intervention, this kind act sparks Cubix's EPU back on, bringing the empty husk of a robot back to life. Here, he transforms himself to save himself after just coming back to life, and of course, Connor, from the collapsing building just in the nick of time. This now positions Connor's status among the new people he has just met as one of the crew, and he got the job. Hooray! Also, he gets to now keep Cubix. That's a great hiring bonus. Now it's up to Connor, his new group of friends, and Cubix to solve the mysteries and conspiracies surrounding the disappearance of Professor Nemo, as well as fight back against the evils in the way, like Dr. K. Let's take a look at these characters individually now. First, Connor, a kid who is really into robots, much like me, except I'm now an adult talking about cartoons from 20-some years ago, so same. Played by Andrew Rannells, he has a heart of gold but definitely stubborn for what he believes in or is into. He has this estranged relationship with his father for a number of reasons. Aside from his dad having a hatred towards robots and everything about them, his father also won't really speak to Connor about his mother who had passed away some time ago. He obviously builds a relationship closely with Cubix throughout the show though. Graham, like I said, doesn't like robots and definitely doesn't support his son's fascination with them. Listen, he still loves his son, but he's not great at his communication skills to back that up, alright? He focuses his time on his donut shop. Wait, donut isn't properly spelled as D-O-N-U-T? Donuts can be the other way. Okay, well I guess both ways are acceptable? I was about to get real angry at Dunkin' Donuts for lying to me all these years. Now I understand why they changed to just Dunkin' now. Anyway, sorry, I have ADHD. Even though he hates robots, he still employs them, but it only makes him angrier as they often have malfunctions and cause him nothing but headaches. His main hatred stems from the fact that he thinks robots have now made people lazier as a result of them existing. Also, he is voiced by the distinctive sounds of Dan Green. Abby, the neighbor and now best friend of Connor, is also into robots just as much. Played by Veronica Taylor, she's a nice and outgoing person who quickly takes a liking to being sort of a guide to Connor in his new life in Bubbletown. She also idolizes Hella and wants to repair robots just like she does. Hella, voiced by Rachel Lillis, knows it all when it comes to robot repair, hence the whole having a repair shop thing. She serves as a great role model to the Bodies, which is the name the group calls themselves, that consist of Abby, Chip, Mong, and now Connor. Chip, the smartest and smallest of the group, hasn't fully found his personal voice yet, as he does feel insecurities towards how he is viewed by his peers, even if they actually don't see him in that way. Chip is voiced by Amy Birnbaum. Mong, the taller and larger one of the group, falls into the tropes we usually see, as he cares about two things: robots and food. He's a bit abrasive and headstrong, but he's overall a good dude. He is voiced by James Carter Cathcart. The Bodies is essentially a club these kids formed to share in their love of robots, now adding in Connor after he fixed up Cubix. So now let's take a look at the robots of the show. I mean, the show is called Cubix after all and not Connor and Friends.
Wow, that's really good.
Cubix Robots for Everyone, next Saturday at 8, 7 Central and Pacific.
Why not have a robot do all the work? Cubix, premiering this September.
So Cubix himself lives up to his name by literally being made of detachable cubes, allowing him to disassemble and construct himself in many different forms for various needs. He's one of a kind and personally created by Professor Nemo. Inside of all of his cubes are useful gadgets for any situation that stands in the way, which is pretty handy, being your own storage unit. Remember that Solix substance I mentioned a little bit ago? Well, Cubix actually runs off a crystallized version of it, which apparently acts as an unlimited source of power that no one, aside from the professor himself, knows how it really works. Cubix can also use his transforming abilities to be any sort of transportation needed. From an airplane to a hover bike, he has many forms that make traversal anywhere a breeze. Voiced by Jerry Lobazo, Cubix is a fierce yet friendly companion to Connor and the rest of the Bodies. Unfortunately, the one thing he lacks is the ability to properly speak, often just replying back with whatever is said to him from others, relying on his eyes or LED display to convey his emotions to everyone else. Throughout the show, we would see growth in Cubix's ability ability to speak in more well-formed sentences. And post-season 1, he fully has the ability to communicate, but his power levels definitely fluctuate after many fierce battles, weakening him depending on, once again, that Solex substance. The bodies themselves also have their own robot companions, like Don Don, who we've seen before with Abby. Mong has Maximix, and Chip has Cerebix. These three also have their own functions to aid in situations, like Maximix being able to form himself into a go-kart and hold their own in battle. Cerebix can fly thanks to his propeller action and his more calculated brains over Bronze, really mimicking Chip's nature. And Don Don, the smaller, not so much of a fighter entertainment robot. Don Don is played by Eric Stewart, Cerebix is played by Mong's voice actor James Carter Cathcart, and Maximix is played by Greg Abbey. They all have more abilities to each of them that we see throughout the show, and make for entertaining counterparts to their human friends. Oh, and we can't forget about Canet, having one of my personal favorite designs of just being a magnet. He escaped from Dr. K's base and found himself a nice place of residence at the pit, where he now is friends with the bodies and can share his love for singing without being yelled at to Canet. Oh, that's where he got his name. His voice actor is unknown. Now for the big baddies of the show. The main antagonist is Dr. K, a ridiculously evil robot inventor who used to work for Robix Corp before an explosion at the lab took his arm and his job. Rather than taking it easy, resting up, earning some workers' comp, he decides that he's gonna be evil now. Truly the deepest of villain origin stories. He then vows to destroy Bubbletown. Hey, maybe that's something Graham could get behind. And spends a lot of his time working on creating the ultimate robot that no one can take down. That requires the missing ingredient though. That sweet, sweet Solex. He is played by Madeline Blaustein. His main robot bud is Colossal, a powerful big brood of a meshed together robot that serves as the right hand to Dr. K. He also serves as Cubix's direct rival in the first season of the show. Just like Canet, the voice actor is unknown. There is also a plethora of other minion robots in the show that plague the first and second season, like Kilobot, who's actually pretty special. He's able to fuse other robots' data into their own, becoming a prominent villain in the second season. Plus, many other bad guy robots appear in the show as well. There is also Razka, voiced by Megan Hollingshead, and also Eric Stewart, who has a small but important role that I think is pretty fun story-wise, so I don't want to really spoil too much of this character, but basically she's this town celebrity with some secrets. Oh, and Charles, the spoiled rich kid who is the son of Bubbletown's mayor, he pops up from time to time thinking he can force his way into the bodies group. He's voiced by Ted Lewis. I guess now is as good a time as any to elaborate on Solex itself, since I've mentioned it briefly a few times here. But there are two distinct versions of Solex. Aside from it being an alien substance discovered from a crashed spacecraft, there is the crystallized version, which is more stable and used in the aid of Cubix, and then there is the liquid form, which is way more unstable, causing energy fluctuations, resulting in issues with the EPU, making some robots act all evil. The show definitely had a great mix of characters to play with, never forgetting our core cast, making way for some stellar fights and charming moments. But equally as interesting, if not more interesting, is the rise of Cubix, how the show came to be, and really what it meant to 4Kids entertainment. First of all, Cubix, Robots for Everyone, was originally just Cubix, back when it came out as a South Korean show. Created by Cinepix, a South Korean 3D animation company located in Seoul, Cubix doesn't have a single person who is credited for the idea that turned into the show, rather just Cinepix themselves being credited as such. Not too much information for the creation are out there, but once the show would be licensed off to 4Kids Entertainment for the English adaptation of the show, we know a lot more about how that production went. Aside from just taking the show and redubbing it in English, 4Kids worked directly with Cinepix and Daiwan, another South Korean animation studio, to produce newly animated scenes to add more into the English version. These scenes, for example, could be noticed as soon as the first episode, where there are now a lot more scenes of the bodies at the repair shop taking a liking to Connor as he works on Cubix. Additional scenes and licensing international franchises is nothing new, but it's nice to see 4Kids putting forth an effort to expand on the show itself. It's also for good reason on their end, as this was touted by them as their first original show. Later, 4Kids would go on to commission other franchises they had on their programming block with specials made entirely for them, to then form their work on producing their own originals. So Cubix was basically their blueprint in how to go about doing so. Even if it really wasn't entirely their own original idea, it still paved the way for what they would continue to create. The international dubs after would be predominantly based on the English version 4Kids had worked on, keeping in those extra scenes, all but the Japanese dub, where it fused both parts of the English version and the original South Korean version, which turned into something entirely new on its own. So yeah, a third version does technically exist of this show. But now that 4Kids has this brand new version of Cubix to play stateside, where would this franchise go?
Oh, okay, I guess.
Cubix, robots for everyone.
Ready to rock and roll, Cubix? Ready.
The English adaptation of Cubix would end up airing for 2 seasons with 26 episodes in total on Kids WB from August 11, 2001 to May 10, 2003. Since 4Kids retained the rights for the English dub of the show, they would go on to rebroadcast the show on their new fully owned entertainment block, the Fox Box, for another year until June 12th of 2004. From there, the show would bounce around where it would be able to be found, but unfortunately, it wouldn't find any audience to stick around with it, so it would always be quickly replaced by another show. Saban would end up purchasing the rights from 4Kids in 2012, with all of the same previous outcomes happening. It even found a home on the streaming service Hulu for a time until it was pulled off when Saban sold the rights to Hasbro in 2018, where the rights to Cubix are still held today as of the making of this video. Aside from rips posted online, there is no real higher quality version of the show out there, leaving the show in a dated look slowly being lost to time, as the rights are being held in limbo. There was a DVD of the final 3 episodes of the first season that they dubbed Cubix the Movie: The Search for Solex, with that disc being the only high quality version of the show to exist in physical or digital media. Other DVDs with episodes apparently did release, but not in the US as far as I can tell. Much like how the show now feels obscure, so does the fan base for it. It honestly is interesting that the promotional efforts for the show seem more memorable than the show itself. From the really cool Burger King toys that you had to collect them all in order to build the giant Cubix figure to the sneak peek VHS. I have a soft spot for those myself, having some for Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and of course everyone's favorite, the Butt Ugly Martians. I think it really boils down to one thing after rewatching the show, and that is, it's fine. That's the best way I can describe it. It's fine. While it looks unique and colorful, the majority of the characters in the show seem either one note or not too terribly interesting. Our main character deals with the narrative by adding in narration all the time, but it feels more like a bunch of exposition dumps to piece together whatever story that they can make for these characters, just to spice it up and seem more interesting. While the fights are fun to watch and the robots have some cool creative looks and abilities, it lacks the substance in between. And when I had to look back upon my own experiences with this show when it originally came out in the US, I realized that I'm viewing these shows in a different lens. Some still are as nostalgic and as great as I remember them, and some are Cubix, where the idea of the show is what I am more fond of rather than the show itself. Don't get me wrong, there is a fine enough story filled with mysteries to follow along and figure out, but if I'm not fully invested in the main characters, it does drag the experience a bit. Again, I wouldn't say this show is bad, it's just bare bones. There's an idea, there's designs, but the structure was weak and the characters, aside from the robots, left a lot to be desired for what could have been a rather awesome experience to go back and revisit. I still love the memories I do have for the show and the external counterparts like toys and video games, but sadly, I think what led to the show not taking off as much as they tried to make it was leaving the audience with nothing notable to hold on to. Thus the reason Bubble Town's haven for robots, Bubble, had burst. Now, I did mention the video games, which they are worth noting because they actually produced a handful of them thanks to 3DO. First with Cubix Race N Robots for the Game Boy Color and the PlayStation 1. I personally had the PlayStation 1 version of the game growing up, and it's, well, not too great of a kart racer. The controls are not well laid out and the courses are a design nightmare, but I still have weird fond memories of playing it, like a lot. At least when I wasn't playing Spyro, Crash, or Croc all the time. The Game Boy Color version is not much better. In fact, the controls are somehow worse now with this top-down look, but Cubix didn't stop there with the video games. They also had Cubix Clash and Bash on the Game Boy Advance, a pseudo-platforming adventure beat-em-up, and then Cubix Showdown on the GameCube and PlayStation 2, which for some reason just basically resembles a Pokemon clone. I don't know, it never felt like even outside of the show it had its own identity. Honestly, the coolest thing that Cubix was ever involved in was Fox Box's Fight for the Box special that took all of the programming block cartoons and had them unofficially cross over with reused footage from each show with new voiceovers to stop the bad guys from controlling the Foxbox programming block. Yeah, I say it a lot, but I wholeheartedly mean it. The early 2000s were very, very weird. I do plan on covering more about the Foxbox era of things soon. I've been working on an Ultimate Muscle video, if that's something you even be interested in checking out. Cubix did also, of course, have a toy line, and honestly, I really like the look of not only the toys, but the packaging. I'm a sucker for some nice packaging. It's a collectible, Mom! And to top it off with a cardboard cherry on top, there was even a card game. Every cartoon needs a card game, and by gosh, did Cubix sure have one. Here it is. But as much as I personally love the thought of Cubix, rather than what the show itself offers, I still enjoyed going on this trip through memory lane and fulfilling that wonder and whimsy to go back and see what I grew up with. Even at the expense of not loving the result of such, I am still glad that I scratched that itch. But I want to know what you think of Cubix. Do you have fond memories of the show, or even remember watching it for that matter? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. I'll be back with another video soon, but until then, later.